to chime in here on some of these other questions. All right, say when. We're recording.
Yes.
We're recording.
Yes.
All right. It is Friday night.
Actually, it is Saturday.
Almost Saturday morning. We are. Oh, we didn't say a prayer. Dang it. And then I said it out loud and we're recording. Oh well. Moving along.
Okay, let's just move on.
Okay, so we are doing. This is week 11. We're doing the case study for CloudFlare. They're an internet company that offers sort of network and hosting kind of services that secures websites, allows their pages to load quicker, and filters out kind of malicious attacks on websites. They offer a freemium. Their business model is a freemium model with subscribers and a small portion of them paying. We have a chart, and I will share my screen. That answers question 3 here. So we are describing here these elements. The customer value proposition. So for the customer, the customer gets some website security, and their page loads faster because CloudFlare hosts a portion of the page on their servers that are located in different areas. And overwhelming majority of the customers get some of the services for free. So that's a good value for customers, especially for customers who are getting attacked or have security risks or just want to protect their site. We're suggesting that they obviously keep doing this. And the issue, though, is as they get more customers and they get more page views, there are some costs that increase. They're going to need to add additional employees to handle the increase in customers. The go-to-market plan. They have their product. It's been tested. It's performing well. They're getting a lot of increase in customers with it, so they're gaining popularity. So that part of the product is going well. They need to monetize more of that customer base. So some of their ideas were to get referrals, use email to their free users to encourage them to sign up for a subscription. They could possibly use data to create income, and we're suggesting that they start doing this. There might be some increase to advertising costs, but they will see, I'm sure, some incremental increase in customers. So their target operating model, they have a loose culture. They don't have a hierarchy, so they don't have like a lot of vice presidents. But they need to have some better process to manage the addition of engineers and some kind of HR process to make sure that the engineers and their staff aren't overloaded with work, or that are getting their needs met, and things are functioning better. So they need to implement something there. They don't need a whole lot of money. They've been funded pretty well. Our estimates on the spreadsheet here, just with the basic numbers, and the percentage of customers paying goes up by 10%, and a very conservative increase in customers that would mean that their profitability would be somewhere around year 5. If things grow quicker, then obviously they could maybe be profitable sooner. So implications, they'll just need enough funds to cover that. Those cumulative losses. So moving on to question 4. So the question is, suppose we have to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale. How long will it take to become profitable? So I guess we kind of answered that. We suggested that if they hired 2 new engineers every year, that's an additional $300,000, and we use that spreadsheet. It was year 5. So next question. Why does CloudFlare management want to get big fast? Go.
Well, like every company, they want to make money, right?
Is there anything special about them making more money and getting more customers, though, other than just more customers equals more dollars?
Well, I mean, they're losing about $3.5 million right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a lot of money. So the faster they grow, the less money.
Right, but that's every business's issue, right? More customers equal money. But in this particular case, a lot of their customers don't pay.
Well, they're also it's also the more traffic that they handle, the more patterns they can discern, and they allow their team to improve the network performance.
Right. So that is exactly why. That's what the case study says. So that is the benefit. What benefit does Cloudflare receive from scale? So if the numbers are solid, right? So if they get several, well, as Zul said, if they get more customers, they get more money. Because if the percentages stay the same, so if 4% is a good number, and they go from 500,000 users to 1 million users, well, 4% of 1 million is obviously a bigger number. So yes, they will get more money. So yeah, they'll get more money as they get more paying customers, and as they get more free customers, they will benefit through the improvement of their network. So part of this question, does Cloudflare have economies of scale? Meaning, are there marginal cost decreases with the increase in customers?
I don't think so, because if the customers increase, that means that the free space of people increase, which means that the cost goes up, right?
Well, there's a $3.50 cost per million page view. So that if that stays the same, that goes up.
Yeah.
So if they don't have to have if they don't hire more people, then that cost goes down, right?
Yeah, but then they wouldn't be able to handle it because there's so many.
It did say that as they get more page views, the partners that they use for their network and their data transmissions and whatnot, in other words, bandwidth, they do get a discount on bandwidth. So it's possible that, yes, as they get more page views, that costs maybe from $3 from $3.50, it could go down to $3.25, $3.10, $3, $2.50. So, and they do have some economies of scale because they have to use bandwidth. So, it's like cell phone users. If if you're a regional cell phone company that you've never heard of but only operate in a local area, you basically buy that usage from Verizon or whatever, and you use your own network. The more people you have, the cheaper Verizon will sell you the bandwidth on their cell phone towers. Does CloudFlare have network effects, meaning the value of the service increases for each customer when there are more customers using it? We kind of touched on this already with the added security as they find more patterns. Through the extra usage, they find more patterns and they're able to keep the networks more secure. But I didn't see anything like with like an ISP where you have more people using the internet, your internet gets slower. I didn't see anything in there that said anything like that.
But then that's when the company buys their bandwidth, right? Is that what it is? Or something like that?
Yeah, but that might be total bandwidth. It may not be bandwidth at a particular moment. So like when you have your internet, you have a certain bandwidth, but when everybody's watching Netflix at 11 p.m. at night, it gets slow because everybody's on there watching movies or something. Yeah. So I don't know if there's those effects. It could be. I didn't see that in the case. But we kind of answered the question, though, that as more customers use it, they get more results. And Charles mentioned that. Does CloudFlare have high switching costs? Meaning, will it be costly or painful for customers to switch to a competitor if there were such a competitor out there? Go.
I don't know. I guess it depends on how better the other.
Are there competitors out there?
Currently, no.
I'm not very software.
Yes, there are competitors out there.
I'm not a very software person. Or internet or whatever.
You're not really tech savvy girl.
Yeah.
So the thing is that the competitors are really large and charge tons of money.
So it'll be costly for them.
Yeah, so let's say Target.com wanted to do this. One of these companies would do it for Target and charge them like $4 million a year. Whereas CloudFlare would say, yeah, we'll do it. Give us 10 grand. So the competitors are really large, but you're right though. It didn't say there was really any other competitor out there that was $20 a month. So essentially that means our answer is that they do have high switching costs, meaning there's really nothing else out there, and the options that are out there are very, very expensive. My son is running around the room. Next question. What other reasons might...
Are they the same? That one and the last one?
Let's see here.
They sound the same.
What other reasons might CloudFlare management have for wanting to get big fast?
And then the other one says, what reasons might you suggest for not growing so fast? Isn't it the same thing? Waiting, not growing.
Well, like you could say, like, what other reasons do they want to grow big fast? Maybe because they could get bought out by another company, and that would be worth, $1 billion.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that could be one thing, right?
I mean, because I
Yeah.
was thinking, for one of the reasons, you know, their structure is not good,
Right.
so they might want to wait on that because if they don't have a good structure, then everything's just gonna fall apart. Because, for example, now all their employees are like quitting. So
Right. Speaking of that, here's the next question. Discuss each of the recent resignations. For each one, list the reasons why they left, then ask what would have to change for that person to have stayed.
okay, I have them
Now,
here.
all of that information is
I made a list.
beginning on page 10.
So for Dell Keefling, he
Yeah,
said
Dale.
that. Huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
his name is Dale.
Yeah, Dell.
Yeah.
He said that he that's the one that he was working like 24/7 that would get calls all the time because he was like the technician, so all the customers would call him.
Right.
So he left because of that, because he didn't have help, and then he also left because he had a baby. So his family needed attention. He couldn't just answer the phone like 24/7. And then he brought these concerns to the founders, but they didn't do anything about it. So, and then David, he did not know what the role was in the organization.
He didn't feel like he was being utilized very well.
Yeah, and he mentioned that the office, he didn't like how they didn't have an office, or they didn't have like printers and stuff like that. So like for people, I guess he wasn't very technical, just technical, sophisticated. So that didn't help him either. He also mentioned it to the founders, and they didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, it says that the engineers program in different languages, and which made like things unclear, maybe sloppy.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then they just kept moving on. And they didn't bother to like structure it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the one that you mentioned that they brought him too early on, so they didn't have that position yet, because I think they only had it on the U.S. or something like that, right?
Yeah. So he mentioned that they didn't have the IT stuff set up, so they couldn't hire non-technical people.
And then David Thakur, he wanted a more challenging job. And oh no, wait, no, David Hosser was the one that what they hired him for never happened. So he decided to leave.
Yeah, he said he's kind of like not. It like wasn't taken off for like he expected it to.
Yeah. And then the other two, one didn't have the passion for it. The other one wanted leadership, right? And then they burned him out. One of them, they burned him out because they like the one from like that worked 24/7, just like that. They burned him out. And then they had disagreements about staffing and strategy. I feel there's a common thread. Hello? Am I
Yes.
speaking to myself? Oh.
Hi.
I feel like there's a common thread, and that is the founders, because they don't listen to their employees. So maybe they had listened to them, they wouldn't have been able to figure out what was going on. And
True.
maybe they would have stayed and fixed it. Just saying.
I think Mike froze on us. Oh, and now he's back.
I was just telling Charles that there's a common thread or whatever it's called, and that's the founders because they don't want to listen to their employees. Maybe if they had listened, they would have stayed and fixed the problem.
Sorry, I disconnected there for a second. What did we finish that question?
Oh no, I was just saying, like, answering the next question, like, what would they?
Well, we
close
we
down?
discussed each one. Thank you, Zul, for doing that. What would have to be done to change so the person would have stayed? Did you answer that already?
Yeah, we mentioned that the founders should have listened to their employees' concerns and do something about it because they weren't
Right.
listening to them. They were
Make
just
those
kind of
changes to
ignoring
keep the
them.
people who left.
Huh? Yeah.
It says, is it worth it to make those changes to keep the people who left?
I think so. I mean, now he's down a technician, which is the only technician he had that talked to the customers. So now he's down that technician. So who's gonna talk to the customers now?
Right.
You know?
You know, the only
So
one.
how about this? Go ahead, Charles.
The only one that I thought was hilarious was David Zucker. His main complaint was that they have a status meeting every Friday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, which lasts for an hour to an hour and a half. Who in the right mind would have a meeting at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
Especially when you live like 45 minutes away from work.
Right. Yep.
It almost sounds like you have a whole bunch of single people who work for the company.
Right. This guy had a family and like 2 kids.
Yeah.
So what will happen to the other employees who work there if the changes are implemented? I don't know. I think so. If they implement a little more structure, I don't think it'll bother anybody that much.
No.
I think most people want a little bit of structure.
Yeah. I think if you don't have structure, it's kind of like, you know, I mean, like, for example, like Zappos is like a company that, you know, they like to share their ideas and stuff. They have structure. But you can still share, you know, have individuality, share ideas, you know, and still have structure. People need structure.
Well, maybe not even structure, you know, a defined process, right? I guess that's structure. Like, how is something done?
Yeah.
You know, how are they measuring things?
The procedures.
Yeah. I mean, at least having process and procedures. Basically, every successful business has that. Why do people work at CloudFlare? What keeps them motivated? Why did they join the company so they could be told what to do, have process and structure, or to change the internet?
Well, most of them were hired according to what they were doing at the time, right? He basically stole people from their work, from my understanding. I don't know what keeps them motivated.
So here's an interesting thing. So recently, Cloudflare in our current times here, Cloudflare was involved with an issue because they were working with a site that was operated by white supremacists. And there was that issue in Charleston where there was a parade or whatever. There was some kind of issue, and some guy took his like Dodge Charger and ran over somebody.
Nice.
So after that point, the public was on Twitter and everything was going crazy, saying, "Hey, Cloudflare, you're gonna stand by and let these guys have their website and spread all this hate and whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And so they were getting tons of pressure. And so the guy said, so Prince said he was freaked out about it because he's all about free speech and all this hardcore, culture at their company, right? And so he finally decided to cut the site off. So they stopped hosting, they stopped protecting them, which essentially meant that their website crashed because everybody was trying to hack into it and shut it down.
Yeah.
So he responded, though, saying, "Hey, I went ahead and shut the site down, but it's really dangerous. What I did was really stupid and dangerous because now it's a slippery slope and it opens the door for all these other issues." So we're talking about this question of why did people join Cloudflare? The thing is that when he was making this decision, he has employees. So we're talking about engineers who quit the company. So he has employees come up to him and say, "Hey, what are you going to do about this? We shouldn't let these guys get away with that." And the employees are pressuring him, and the thought is like, "I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to change the internet or whatever, but these people are terrible, horrible people, and I don't want to be a part of an organization that like lets this website exist." So in a sense, from that story that I read the other day, it seems like they probably have a decent amount of staff that signed up because they wanted, they have these sort of altruistic feelings about the internet. I thought that was pretty crazy that happened. But it's interesting because you read in this case study, it talks about them protecting the Turkish websites that were trafficking women and selling prostitutes. That was okay with their business model. Everybody else was okay with that, but not with white supremacists, I guess. Group decision time. What should Cloudflare do?
Yes.
Option: implement more process and structure.
Yes.
Hire a VP of HR and start using titles.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll say yes.
I agree.
Okay, should they slow down growth? Yes or no?
Why is that? Why?
Why would they should slow? I mean, I guess you can do the processes and still go fast in growth. I mean, they're making revenue. Why should they slow down? I don't know.
Well, I would say that they need to slow down just a little bit because all their people, all their engineers currently are fleeing the company because they are being way overworked. So if you can slow down just a little bit, hire more engineers,
yeah,
then you can speed up your growth. But
so slow down for like a second. Just slow down for a couple months, right?
Yeah.
Because
You can hire go half.
As the case is written right now, they don't have any additional engineers hired yet.
Right. Discuss what will happen to the company under the recommendations. That was something you mentioned, Charles. What will happen to the culture and motivation of the current employees? What will happen to the cost structure and therefore profitability of the company?
Well, if you slow down growth, then probably it's gonna go down a little bit. I mean, it might
Well,
be constant, but it won't go up
I mean,
for that.
I would have a meeting, and I'd have a meeting, and I'd say, hey, look, we've just lost 5 engineers. So you either need to pull. So it's either you got to be a Steve Jobs and be motivator in chief and light a fire under everybody, and drive them like crazy, and convince them to stay. Or you need to add you need to sit everybody down and say, look, we still want to have this type of a culture. We still want to do this, but here are some things we need to do. What do you guys suggest? And let the employees have a part in it, because you can't just say, hey, this is what we're doing now because it's not working, and here's how it's going to work. That's not necessarily the best idea, but they could still have some structure. They could still have some process. They can um, they can involve the employees and be democratic about it and try to get a consensus. I would recommend that, because in a situation when you have a culture like that, it has to be a little democratic and involved, so that when you make the decision, everybody's on board. When you move forward, you can say, hey, remember 6 months ago we've talked about this. This is how we're doing it. We all agreed. So I don't necessarily think they need to have someone else come in and run the place.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
I was gonna say, I will bring the people that want to leave, especially that I feel like the most important one that you want to bring is the technician engineer, whatever. Because I mean, that was the only person in that position. So like trying to bring him back at least, and like ask him, well, do you have any? Can you help you with this? Do you have any referrals? So I can employ that person or something like that.
Right. Yeah, they should. I mean, if you have a couple key people, and if they decide to bail, what's your plan B? What's your backup?
I mean, there were like 2 people that weren't doing anything, so forget about those. 2 or 3 that weren't doing anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. It sounded like there was a couple of employees who had kind of a function, but they weren't really like, yeah. Oh, because he mentions opportunity hires. These were people, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, these are people that they said, oh, wow, they're such a great person. They'd be great on our team. Let's find them something to do.
But they didn't. That's the thing.
Right. Yeah.
So they're sitting, having $150,000 a year wages when they could have saved that money.
I think that's sort of like a Silicon Valley stereotype. Like, oh, hey, that person's skilled. Let's just hire them because they'll be good for our team somehow, and they'll just fit in.
Yeah. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Why would you waste money? But it's okay. I guess if you waste money now, you can't. It's like I guess it's a cool opportunity for a reason, but in the long run, I guess I'll make you money, but not right now.
All right, so are we ready to summarize?
Yeah.
Okay. Summary. So we've talked about that CloudFlare has a freemium business model, where as they add customers, a certain percentage of them are going to pay, and another percentage of them are going to increase the value for the company overall, because the page views and the usage generates patterns and information that they use to make their network more secure. The problem with that is that as there's more traffic and more customers, puts more stress on the staff, and since they have a lack of structure, there's some frustration among some of the of the staff, and they've some of them have left the company. We talked about that if they have conservative growth, they can move some numbers up by 10% every year, and maybe they hire a couple engineers a year, that the company would be profitable maybe in 5 years, and that they didn't necessarily need any cash to do that. Seemed like they have some venture capitalists that were funding them. We discussed the employees and why they left, and it just seems like there's frustration with the founders that they are really committed to their culture and ideals, and didn't address some of the concerns very well that these other employees had, and so those employees left the company. Our recommendations are that they should focus a little bit more on the HR side of things, and not push for marketing at the moment, so that they can solve some problems before going ahead, so that they don't make those problems worse down the road. And they should hire some key employees that they need, and develop a process for hiring employees that are actually going to be valuable to the company, rather than sort of a wishful thinking approach where they hire somebody just because they might have a skill set, but they don't know how they're going to use that person. Anything else?
I think you said it all.
That's it.
Okay.